Previous episodes of Tab on Money have covered the subject of late payments and the role that the Office of the Small Business Commissioner can play in tackling that very serious problem. If a late paying business knows that the Small Business Commissioner can get involved and can enforce it, they will be far less likely to act in this way and hopefully will up their ethical game. And we've made it very clear time after time that whilst we believe the work that they're doing is good, fundamentally they are able to persuade, cajole and essentially motivate businesses to behave in a reasonable way towards their suppliers. Nonetheless, it was all carrot and no stick. If recent press reports are to be believed, it looks like they might be just about to get themselves a pretty big stick. Since we've been calling for precisely this, and we are very publicly on record to say that we have been urging that they get more powers and the power to enforce, we of course should be delighted if this is true and that they will be being able to enforce their decisions. But we have to be a little bit careful about what we wish for here, because life is never quite as simple as one would like it to be. Speaking as someone who is in business in a highly regulated environment, the one thing that I can share with you absolutely is that regulators need statutory authority in order to police whatever their particular marketplaces are. Statutory meaning it has to come by Act of Parliament, and at the moment the Office of the Small Business Commissioner does not have the power to levy fines. If they are to be given the power to levy fines, presumably that has to come through an Act of Parliament, which means that the entirety of the economic relationship between suppliers and contractors and everything to do with essentially economic activity in the UK would theoretically come under the regulatory remit of the Office of the Small Business Commissioner. Not being funny, I've been to their offices. They're not very big. They're going to need to grow, and fast. In order to exercise that kind of regulatory regime, they're going to need the sort of staffing that's going to make the FCA look like a small business. This is a big, big step to take. There is a problem with their current suite of powers, fundamentally that they don't have any. And one could say, well, we could start by giving them the ability to name and shame. That would be a thing. But of course, once again, they're not protected in statute from legal consequences of naming and shaming, whereas, for instance, the FCA are. And therefore, one could argue that if the Office of the Small Business Commissioner were to name and shame Company A for being persistently slow payers, they could be faced with a significant lawsuit. I think the approach that's being taken at the moment is probably the correct one, which is, let's be honest, that no decision has been made. This is going out to consultation. And hopefully that consultation will be sensible and will lead to balanced responses, and in and of itself may have an effect on the late payments part of the marketplace. If these larger organisations, and let's be clear about this, it's not always large on small, it's sometimes medium on small, and it's sometimes small on small. So saying all big business have a bad relationship with their smaller counterparts simply isn't true. There is a subset of them that are the repeat offenders. If as part of that consultation itself, the awareness of this constant problem is increased, and possibly the answer may be that the Office of the Small Business Commissioner gets a significant budgetary increase in order to make its scope and activity much more well known and understood. It could be that the outcome is they don't actually need a statutory intervention, that sort of instrument that is enormously expensive and blunt and in my opinion, almost impossible to implement across the entire trading activity of the United Kingdom. It could be that the way forward is actually, we all agree that they should get a whole bunch more money and more staff and a much higher profile, and we make the practice of late payment and this predatory mindset simply unacceptable within the UK economy.